In this session, I'm going to talk about exits. So I think I'm going to just go ahead and get started. And I think, like everything that we sort of teach, um, we like to have kind of a structure to how a framework to how we look at sort of every portion of the skydiving. So exits are no different. We have sort of a structure to how we look at and evaluate exits. I'm going to talk about that briefly at a high level now, and then I'm going to use the bow exit as my example to walk through in more detail. And in that way, I'm going to both explain the bow exit, which I think is probably the first exit that a four-way team or any four-way group may want to learn. And also, not only will they learn that exit, but I'll be able to show you how to apply this framework of learning exits in general. To begin talking about that framework, on a high level, when we're thinking about our exit, we want to understand what we're trying to do, and we want to understand how we're going to get there, right? And while that might seem like obvious, I've found that a lot of people go up and all they've thought about in their exit is who's grabbing onto whom and maybe who's giving the count without an idea of exactly what are we trying to do out in the sky. And without knowing what we're trying to do, it's really just luck whether or not we succeed. And then, of course, with more specifics, that's sort of the highest level. What are we trying to do, and how are we going to do it? How do we get there? The next level of depth is for the what are we trying to do? It's what should the group look like out the door, and what does each person look like out the door? And then the how do we get there? The next level of depth is what does the setup and launch look like? So uh, uh, where are our feet? Where is our lower body? Where is our upper body in the setup, in the sort of downbeat or the set? So we're on the ready, on the set, and on the go, And then finally, out the door, how do we fly to where we're trying to be? So that's sort of the high level, and now I'm going to go into detail by explaining it with my bow exit. It's all going to make perfect sense. Okay, so this is a bow exit. Let's take a look at it, and then I'm going to talk about the framework for how to do it. Okay, so that's our bow exit. Again, cool. Okay, that's our bow exit. And basically just, I like to always say, just do it like that, okay? Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Okay, so now the framework for it. The first question is, what are we trying to do? So what should the group look like out the door? Now, it's great if you have a video, and of course, if you have the app, then you do have a video. But what should the group look like out the door? I'm gonna pause it. Boom, right? So this is what we're trying to look like out the door. Some questions that you might want to understand is, on a high level, I'm going to go back to, I'm going to stop sharing and you guys all see me back again, right? On a high level, what I like to do is, you saw that scene of what it looked like out the door. What I like to do is have the group, before they go up, if they haven't already done this, use their hands to depict where each person should be out the door. So if you saw that bow exit I just described, this hand, my finger is head, my wrist is the legs. So this is a person standing straight up and down, right? This is a person sideways. Yeah, get it? Okay, so if I'm the outside center, this is what I look like out the door. If I'm the inside center, I look like this out the door. Yeah, you guys all see that? If I'm the points, we're sort of across the line of flight, and we look like that out the door, right? And remember, that's my fingertips are the head, my wrists are the legs. And if I'm the tail, here I am out the door, straight up and down. So tail, outside center, inside center, and point, right? And I'm going to go back to the screen, and you can see that. hands represent people, and we all want to put our hands in as the four-way team to understand where we belong in the sky. And if we do that, that makes sure that we have a shared understanding. And if we can't do that, then we know we have to kind of take one step back and talk about it, and perhaps see the video of our exit to make sure that we're all on the same page. So what should the group look like out the door? How tight or wide is the formation? You can see that in this picture, right? How tight we want to look. You can see that, and this is generally the case. We want it to look comfortable, right? People aren't stretched out. Arms are a little bit bent. It's not super big, but it's not super small either, you know. And that goes true for, I think, most exits. The angle into the wind. The hands not only can tell not only tells you sort of where you are relative to other people, but the whole group. What is the angle into the wind? And so you can see that the tail here is straight up and down, and the point here is straight across line of flight, right? Now, once we know what the group looks like, that drives the next question of what should every person look like, okay? So if I know that here is my picture of the bow, then I know my outside center, who's this guy. You guys see that drawing? See that circle?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. That person is my outside center, and we see his orientation out the door, and that's where he's trying to go, right? We can see the point, and we know that this is where the point's trying to go, across the line of flight. We can see the inside center, yeah? And we can see the tail. Right? Okay, so by knowing what the group looks like, we now know what each individual should look like. Yeah. And what I think is that will drive a couple of things. That will drive on the y-axis, how high up am I trying to jump in each position? And I'm going to talk about that for each position. On the x-axis, how far out am I trying to jump? And on the z-axis, how far into the page or forward into the plane or aft of the plane am I trying to jump out the door? So all the y, the x, and the z-axis, how far out, how far up, how far up, how far out, and how far forward or back am I trying to go when I'm leaving? All is driven by this picture here. And then again, also my heading or angle, which is to say not just where my center of mass is going, which is all that x, y, and z, but my rotation, right? So I want to know not just where is my hips going, but also on what angle should my body be oriented. Okay, so I know the picture for the group. I now know what that means for each individual for the group. And if we break it down for this, right, we have the point straight across the line of flight. We have the inside center around 45 degrees, let's say, up and down. We have the outside center the same, but facing the inside center, and we've got the tail straight up and down, right? Now we want to say, okay, how do we get there? And of course, the how is the tricky part, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a mock-up video. So the next thing I'm going to think about is in the door, where does each person belong, right? So I'm going to talk about the setup, and then we'll go in time order from there, right? So the first question is, what should your lower body be doing? Which I'm going to start from the feet and make my way up. So I'm going to start with the outside center, and I'm going to talk about what he's doing all the way down the line, and then I'm going to talk about inside center, I'm going to talk about point, I'm going to talk about tail. Okay, so outside center, their foot placement. You can see here that my foot as outside center is about, let's say, what is that, 12 inches from the front of the door, right? You can see from my weight distribution, the fact that I'm leaning forward, that that's very deliberate. I'm leaning forward into the wind, so I'm strong against the wind. Where are my hips? My hips are in a line over my feet, going from my feet to my hips to my shoulder. That's one straight line. So I'm not allowing my hips to get blown back behind my feet. If I ever find myself in the door with my hips lean back behind my feet, then I know I'm not strong and I'm going to get blown off the plane as soon as I let go. So that's where my hips are. And how am I presented? I'm trying to, you can see with my upper body, sorry, with my hips, I'm going to get up to the upper body next, that they're already presented into the wind as much as possible, right? My hips are already into the wind. What does my upper body do? So what is my hand placement? You can see this more here. You can see my left hand. For me, I put my left hand on the edge of the door. You could also put your left hand on the bar. Yeah. Here's a good picture to demonstrate that I have my left hand on the inside of the door. You can see where my right hand is. It's on the bar, forward of my hips. So my whole body's leaned a little bit forward, and my right hand is on the bar a little bit forward of my hips, in the line with my body. How are my shoulders and chest? You can see they're also, like my hips, already presented to the wind. And of course, it's sort of as much as possible. There'll be a little bit of tilting, I think, into the plane, but we're going to get a little bit out to the wind. And then finally, with your upper body, where are you looking? And you can kind of see here my face that I'm deliberately looking in where the inside center would be. Okay, so that's what my upper body's doing. On the set, the next step is, so now I'm sort of I'm in my stance. I'm strong, and the next thing is we're gonna get the ready, we're gonna get the set, and then we're gonna get the go. Yeah, in the count. So now I'm gonna talk about the set, which is the sort of loading myself up for power to be able to launch away. Okay, so we get a shake, shake, we get a ready, set. There's my set, and you can see there's a little bit of a down. And all I'm doing as outside center is I'm getting a little bit of down, but I'm staying strong on my right leg. And my left leg is starting to present, and I'm pushing off, and you maybe you can't see that at this moment, but my right foot is probably still on the door at this moment, pushing strong and putting myself at that angle that we talked about, that the outside center wants to be on. So how did my weight shift? My feet, for outside center, is straightforward. My foot, I only had one foot on the door, which is my right foot, so my weight stays on my foot. That might change a little bit from position to position, and I'll explain that. Where do my hips go? My hips compress a little bit, straight down the line from my shoulders to my hips to my feet, but I don't let my hips get blown backwards. I'm staying strong at the angle that I've stood at in my stance in the setup. My upper body, I'm thinking about presenting the hip and the shoulder and starting to get that even more opened up. My head, I'm looking at the inside center. And again, where am I looking? So my head and my eyes, I'm looking at my inside center. She's my partner as I go. So that's my set. And now I'm going to talk a little bit about the go, right? So ready, set, go. On the go, we've begun that. I'm launching away. Set. Here's my go. I'm launching away. And what am I doing? What am I doing? Again, my heading out of the door. You can see I'm already trying to get as outside center, hips out a little bit further away than my upper body. Which foot did I leave off of? I left off of my right foot. What does the launching foot do? It's pushing me. And what is it doing? So in any exit, or in most exits, and for sure many of the sort of beginner exits, we have our outside center and our inside center. And we said that we wanted the outside center and the inside center to be right in level with each other, right? Well, the outside center is already out of the plane, even in the setup. And the inside center is in the plane in the setup, which means the outside center sort of has an advantage of getting out quicker, but therefore they have the challenge of trying to stay up high enough for the inside center to get down low enough for them to be on level, or else the whole exit rotates, right? So what does that mean I have to do as outside center? A couple things. It means I need to be pushing, launching forward into the plane. Sorry, let me take a step back. So I'm here and I'm launching. We said Y, the up direction. I'm launching up to try to get up as much as I can. So I give time for my inside center to get down and on level with me. I'm launching out and away. How much out and away? I'm launching out and away enough for my inside center to be able to sneak out the door. So that's my X direction. I'm going forward into the plane, like towards the prop. And how much? I'm launching into the prop enough again so that the wind that's going to blow me backwards doesn't immediately blow me back so quick that it cuts off the hole that the inside center is trying to get through. Okay? So the point, now I want to talk a little bit about timing. If we think about what we're trying to do, again, if I take this picture right out the door, right? We want the point you can see to be higher than the outside center and inside center. We want the outside center and inside center to be right in the up and down direction together, and we want the tail to be below them. So there's sort of two things we can do in concert with each other to help make that happen. One is we can be launching up more for the people that are higher, like the outside center and the point, and we could be dropping down more for the people trying to get down, which is the inside center and tail. But also, we can use timing, right? If I'm point and I leave a little bit later, then by virtue of the fact that we all fall downward, the point will be above the rest of the group. So everybody has a little bit of timing that will help them, and you can see out the door, and I'm going to talk about for each person, but the outside center's timing, as the inside center is already sneaking out the door, I'm still pushing into the wind and launching and getting upward drive. So my timing is with the inside center, but slightly allowing that inside center to kind of get started. Certainly not before, but not so late as to be in the inside center's way. That's my timing. And that idea of balancing timing with power, how much am I jumping up versus how much am I waiting, is a variable that honestly I think every team needs to work with and figure out for each other. But I would say as outside center, it never hurts to be more powerful launching up and away and out. And then using that little bit of timing to refine it is great. All right, I'm gonna do a little exercise here that I find. Everybody give a little round of applause for Jeanette. Now, typically the inside center gives the count. In most cases that it seems that I'm on and we train, you could change that and the outside center could give the count. There's sort of advantages, disadvantages to both. I can talk about that, but I'd say that most teams, the inside center gives the count, okay? Okay, so if we do super slowly, I'm gonna go ahead.
Ready, set.
And in these moments, as she's going, I'm still pushing off of my foot and getting that power off the plane. And this is an exercise that you can do with your inside center. Even, well, if you were quarantined with your inside center, you could do it right now. But even before we're jumping and for free, this is a timing that you can work. And so we would do this over and over again. I'll do sort of regular time. Boom. One more time. Boom. You know, and that timing, that understanding, that communication between me and Jeanette as inside center and outside center is super important for being able to consistently do what we're trying to achieve. Yeah? Cool. Thank you very much. I'll have you come back in a bit. The skydive the exit is not over just because of the moment we've left the door. Even out the door, we're making small adjustments. We're working with each other. We're strong with our grips, but we're not pushing on each other. And we're flying to where we want to be. So you can see as outside center, my left leg in particular, it's opened up and it's getting wind on the inside of my left leg. And that's lifting me and helping me relative to Jeanette to get up high and out. you know? And that's something I do even off the plane and continue to do until I get to that bow picture. And I fly to that heading, that ultimate heading that I'm trying to reach for the final bow picture. And then finally, again, I've flown to where I'm going. I've flown to the not only to where center of mass is going, but my orientation is going. And of course, where am I looking? I'm looking at Jeanette. I'm looking at my inside center as outside center. Now, we don't have grip switching in this exit. This is a bow, and my example is a bow, but for many of you, you might launch a bow and then transition to another point. And I just want to talk briefly about that here. When it's time to transition to another point, there's a couple of things that you want to think about. One, how is it decided when are you ready to move on from the bow to the second point that you're moving on to? My answer to that is just like the inside center generally keys thing, it should be the inside center generally keying your transition to the next point, okay? But we should all be watching and ready, yeah? What grips change? We should understand that. So if we're moving from a bow to another point, we should understand what grips I can hold on to and what grips I need to let go of. And if I'm grip switching, which is to say I'm holding on to one grip, grab with my other hand, and then let go, then we want to be very deliberate about that as well. And that's all something that we plan on the ground. And then how do people fly into position? So in other words, if I need to take a cat on someone, or let's say if the point, in this example, we're going to take a cat on me, is the point going to fly to my legs, or am I going to rotate my legs and bring them to the point? These are all discussions and understandings that we want to have if we're doing grip switching from our bow or from any exit to another exit. So again, what are the grip switching thoughts? Who's going to decide when it's ready when we begin the grip switch? And I said that's usually inside center. What grips will change, and how will we fly ourselves to the next position? Okay. That's grip switching. Okay, we're moving on, and I'm going to talk about the inside center. Right. So I've already said our ultimate goal for the inside center is this picture, right? About 45 degrees, give or take, up and down, in level and an up and down position with the outside center, right? And just outside the door. So how will the inside center do this? Again, we're going to talk about the setup and the ready. Then we're going to talk about the set. Then we're going to talk about the go. And then we're going to talk about flying. So the setup. Here is our mock-up picture of the bow and inside center with the blue helmet. And you can see the way she's set up in the door. What did we say? We said foot placement and weight distribution, right? So you can see that the left foot is on the edge of the door, right about center way, forward back of the door. And if we take a moment and we see the picture with the whole group, okay, yep, you can see that her foot is behind the outside center's foot, right? Where are the hips? The hips are over the feet. So they're not way back behind the feet. They're strong and over the feet with the knees bent and back relatively straight, right? You can see that here. Go back to the two-way picture with her here. Yep, so back is she's not totally bent over horizontal. She's not perfectly straight up and down, but her weight is over her feet, yeah? How is she presented? This is very important, especially for inside center. It's easy for inside centers to turn to face out the door, but you can see that she's already faced with her hips into the wind, as if, imagine if the wind were coming into the fuselage as well, you would see that her hips are already presented into the wind. And that's an important point and one that's easy to get lost when we're setting up as inside center. What does our upper body do? Okay, where are our hands? You can see that her right hand is high on the grip of the point, and her left hand is on the outside center's arm. And you can see that here. In this example, she's high up on my gripper. There's some variability there you could take on the wrist, but this is what we like. It's a little stronger, right? So what's her hand placement? How are shoulders and chest presented to win? Just like the hips, she's already presented the win with her shoulders and chest. And where is she looking? You can kind of really see that here. I really love this picture. You guys all see Jeanette's face right there, kind of peeking over at me? I love that you can see that in some other pictures, it may be tough to tell, but she's very much trying to see me, even if sometimes the door is in the way, sometimes maybe my head is above the edge and so she can't actually see my eyes. Maybe the point is in the way, but she's looking to where my head is. And so what that means is the moment she's able to, she's going to be seeing me. She's going to be looking right at me. She's not looking down at the ground. She's not looking up at the wingtip. She's looking at me. That's the set. That's the ready. Next, we're going to talk about the set. So shake, shake, shake. Ready, set. There's her set. And you can see what she's done is she's just compressed a little bit. She's strong. She's small, but she's not super made herself uncomfortable. She's just gotten a little bit of leverage here from which to launch. How does the weight shift? What I would say is that for inside center, they're starting to put their weight on the set on their right foot. And a lot of people don't know that. They think that for inside center or point, you're launching off of your left foot or that front foot. But no, we're actually launching off of that right back foot. And that's true for both the inside center and the point. So in the set, most of the weight is now on the left foot. And the right foot, you could imagine that if you were to sort of kick it out of its way, that the person would just fall. Where do the hips go? We said that they compress. The upper body, what do the shoulders do? They remain presented. What does your head do? The head is still trying to look at the outside center, even if they can't get eye contact. And where are you looking again? Yeah, I've said that, at the outside center. Next, we're going to talk about the launch for her. And what Jeanette is trying to do, this is the launch right out the door, is she's trying to squeeze her way down behind the outside center and get down as low as she can so that I don't have to go as outside center, you know, any higher than I can, you know. So on that go, her center of mass, if we think about the Y direction, is down for sure. If we think about the X direction or away, she's going away just enough to get out the plane. The outside center, we said, needs to get away enough for the inside center to fit out the door. The inside center needs just enough to get her basically her butt out the door. We said that was away, that was up and down, and then as far as into the plane, in other words, towards the prop or towards the rear or the Z direction, she's a little bit back. She's heading a little bit behind the outside center. And that's because it's so easy for the outside center to get blown backwards that if the inside center drove forwards, it would cause an unnecessary sort of rotation in the presentation of the piece. So again, she's thinking down, away just enough to get out, and she's thinking back through the rear of the plane. Where is she's looking? As soon as she can, she's looking back at the outside center, out the door. As far as the timing, one of the things I think is really important for the inside center is the inside center drives the timing, but she also works with the outside center. So the inside center needs to trust that the outside center is going to work off of her timing. She needs to go on her count, but she also can see the hips of the outside center. And she can see if the outside center is a little bit behind with their hips. She can work just a little bit to slow it down. If the outside center is a little bit ahead, she's going to work in concert with the outside center to be, yes, the conductor, but also understanding the needs of her outside center. You know, that's a nuance that I think is really challenging. And let's say if you're just starting out, our point is the inside center gives the counts, and the inside center needs to go on their counts. You know, one challenging thing is it's easy to think, shoot, I got all these people in my way, and so I'm going to follow after them because I can't go anywhere. And the inside center needs to have a certain amount of trust of, I'm going to sneak through this hole in the back half of the plane, and I'm going to trust that everybody's going to get out of my way, and I'm going to be a little bit of I'm going to make this happen. You know, that's the timing. And as far as power, you know, they're not launching away very hard, so it's more about that driving down. One extra thing I like to think about for the tail, for the inside center is it's easy to want to go farther away than you actually need to. And so what I like to think about is I want my hips to go just out the door. I'm going to show this. Notice that her hips are going just out the door, and her right foot and even her left foot at this moment is still in the door. And she's okay with that. If you're thinking about getting your feet out the door and then going down, you're going to be too late. So you need to think, my hips go out through the door, and just sort of leave your feet behind. And if you trust it, that will happen and you'll get out the door. But it's our center of mass, it's our hips that we need to be focused on getting out the door as inside center, not our feet. And then in the wind, what are you trying to do? Okay, so again, I'm out the door. You can notice that out the door, she may be a little bit more sideways. You know, we might even have her be a little bit more straight up and down earlier, but regardless, she's gonna fly to that picture of being, you know, at an equal angle with the outside center, that sort of 45 degrees up and down line of flight. She's going to be looking at the outside center, and she's going to keep working herself down. So even if she started a bit higher, she's going to get to this position where heads are on level with each other. Okay, cool. That's inside center. Next, I'm going to talk about the points. Okay, so again, where does the point want to be? We said they want the point to be across line of flight. What I like to do is sometimes the cameraman can sort of give you a deceiving angle, and but I think if you look at the plane and you look where the point is relative to that wing, you can see that he's really exactly parallel with the wingtip, and that's what we're going for the point, right? And we knew that because that's the picture we're going for. So this is what we're going for. How are we going to do it? I'll get to the mock-up. Okay, and this is the setup already. You can see that the point has left foot forward, right foot back, right? And where are the hips? The hips are sort of just inside the door. And already you can see a little bit presented as well. You know, a little bit of we're getting open with our opening that right hip open so that we're getting a little bit of presentation to the wind. What does the upper body do? The upper body, it may not be able to be presented right away. We're going to see how he's going to get presented out the door. Hand placement. His left hand is on the outside center's upper grip. Show you this. Oops. You can see that here. You can see that the left hand is on my left grip. Yeah. And where is he looking? He's actually looking at the outside center and seeing the inside center as well. He's not looking up at the wingtip, which is something that you might sort of learn early on. We always say is all of the information for flying together with this group is in the group, not in the airplane. So all of us are looking across the center for that information. So to be even more specific, the point, seeing the inside center and outside center as he's already kind of aware, looking across at the tail. And you may not see that his head may not be turned that way, but his eyes are for sure. As far as his foot, a couple of things. Notice that his foot is about, let's say, 6 inches from the front of the door, that left foot. It's just in front of the outside center's foot, right? Notice that the right foot is in line with the left foot in the forward back direction. And you can see this here. If anything, the right foot is slightly more forward in the forward back direction of the plane than the left foot, right? That's important. If that right foot moves back into the space of the inside center, then his butt will be in the space of the inside center. And the inside center gets sort of all jammed up and there's no room. So by having the right foot, and again, this is talking about in the forward back direction of the plane, be more forward, it sort of rotates the point such that their hips are not all up in the inside center space. That's the ready. One other thing about point is notice that his head is not fully out the door, and notice that his right shoulder is not out the door at all. This is okay, you know. And also you notice that his right shoulder is in fact forward of the leading edge of the door, you know. And that's okay because the plane, once we leave the plane, we're all going to get blown backwards. So I see sometimes in beginner points, in beginner groups, the point feels like they need to get more of themselves out of the plane, even in the setup, in order to not hit the front of the door. But I promise you, you will not hit the front of the door. We're all worried about hitting the back of the door, not the front of the door. And trusting that is an important part of making sure that we set up in the right way. Because if you don't, and you as the point are too far back, it forces everything else too far back. And now the inside center will have a hard time getting out the door. Okay, so that's the ready. Let's look at this set from the mock-up video. Okay, the set is not too unlike the inside center. The shake, 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 ready, set, just like the inside center, and just like all of us, there's a little bit of compression there. We're strong and we're ready to launch. At this point, like the inside center, we're shifting our weight to our right or back foot. And we're going to launch off of that foot to get out into the wind. So you'll see that it's the right foot that leaves, sorry, it's the left foot that leaves the plane first, and it's the right foot that he's pushing off of. It's hard to see in this particular image, but that's what's going on for both the inside center and for the point. What that does is it helps presentation out the wind. If instead you lead with that forward foot, it tends to cut us into the wind. And that could get into a longer discussion, and I'm not going to get into it right now. But suffice it to say, our divers, inside center and point, we want to launch off our right foot. So that's the ready. Sorry, that's the set. We said where the hips were. How do your shoulders present? Yes, so in the set, I'm already beginning to think about how I might increase my presentation. So I'm squeezing out the door, but I'm gonna think about it. I'll talk about the launch. I'm gonna open up that right shoulder. Where am I looking? I'm looking back at the tail. Okay, next we're gonna talk about the go. So we talked about the ready, we talked about the set. Let's talk about the go. Go back to the video here. Ready, set. Okay, go. We said out the door. Direction of center of mass, right? The Y, the X, and the Z. He's definitely trying to go up some. So there's a little bit of launching up because he wants to be higher than us. How much out? He needs to be out just enough to be between the inside center and outside center. So it's not super far away. It's not as far away as the outside center. It's just between them, and he can see himself in a line with the tail. That's his measure. Sometimes I'll see points overrun and try to go too far away, and that will induce rotation in the formation. So see the tail and put yourself just above in that heading. What's the heading out the door? We said we're going for straight across line of flight. What is the lower body doing? We said we were launching off of the right foot. What's the other foot doing? It's just sort of stepping out into the wind. What are our hips doing? We're already opening up and presenting. What's our upper body doing? The shoulders. That right arm is really trying to open up and get presentation. What does your head do? We're looking back at the tail. And then as far as the timing versus power, I'd say for points, I feel like I'm definitely a little bit of launching up, but it doesn't have to be super powerful. I can work a little bit of timing here. And I'm going to bring back in Jeanette. So I'm points, and we'll just do a count, and then I'm going to do an exercise, show you the exercise. Boom. You can see I'm following the inside center and outside center out. I'm not leading that. And by following it, because we all fall away, that's going to help me to get above. An exercise that I like to do with the timing is if you do shake, 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 ready, set, and fall backwards, I'm going to just follow you, right? So, and what I like to do is I kind of like to have a hand out and do your count.
Shake, 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 ready, set,
go. So if you see what I'm doing, if we have Jeanette come back, right? What I'm doing is I'm not overrunning Jeanette. I feel like I am going with her, but I'm going to be just following her. So one more time.
shake, shake, ready, set.
Boom. Yep. And I've never really touched her, but I've never let the distance get any farther. And if I can work that with the inside center, again, on the ground, with the group, this is all free practice. It's going to make your timing better and make the group all leave more effectively. Cool. Thank you. All right, sweet. That is the point. So now we have the tail.
This is a really great picture of the setup in the door. So you can see in the bow, the tail is head jamming. A couple things about head jamming is one, when we head jam, I like to say that you're going to climb out as tail, get comfortable on your feet, then get into position and put your head such that the back of your, let's say, neck is on the bar. You know, I don't just back out and try to lock my head in, right? So I climb out, I'm comfortable, then I get into that position. I like to have my weight out, but I don't feel like there's a lot of strain on my head or neck. A lot of people tell me they're not comfortable head jamming because they're worried about the strain on their neck. And a lot of us skydivers have bad necks after maybe a few not so great openings. But I'll tell you that when I do it, I don't feel any strain on my neck because I'm strong on my legs. And I feel like what's going on with my head and neck is simply for balance, that I don't fall out, but not for weight. So you can see how we're head jamming, how Doug is head jamming here. The setup, where's his foot placement? You can see that both of his feet are on the door. You can actually have one foot off if you want, but this is the way Doug does it. Where are his hips? Notice that his hips are about 45 into the, sort of forward into the plane, you know? So he's not facing directly into the plane. He's about 45 forward versus into the plane. And that's important, I think. You know, that's something we want to be deliberate about. That helps us to start getting presented. What's the hand placement? You can see his left hand is high up on my leg, on the outside center's leg. And while you don't see the inside center there, I'm not going to switch the picture. His right hand is also high up on that leg. How are his shoulders? His shoulders are square and chest square with his hips, which we said were about 45 into the wind. And where is he looking? You can really see here that even though his head is a little bit sideways, he's looking over at the group. And there's a moment when I like to say here that I've heard a lot sort of tails say, oh, I couldn't see the count, you know? And I challenge you that yes, if you look enough, and of course this happens with practice, but you should see the inside center making the moves. You can see the outside center and the point. If we all do that count together, we all do that set together, then there should be information there for the tail to see, for sure. So that's where he's looking. Next, the set. Okay, how does his weight shift? He's on the set, he's already compressing like all of us, and his head is disengaged from the bar. So before any of us have left, he's disconnected his head from the bar. And that's important because we need to make sure he's getting out of the way of the inside center. Where is his hips going? His hips are going straight down. Where is his upper body? His upper body is presented, he's presented into the wind just as his hips were. And where is he looking? He's looking up at the group. He's certainly not looking down at the spot. That's our set. And then finally on the go, we talk about a direction of center of mass, right? So in the Y direction, the up-down direction, he's thinking down, very, very much down, which the best we can do is dropping, right? How much out, away? Not very much out away, just enough to not be in the way of the inside center. And how much back? I would say he doesn't really need to think about going back because just like the outside center, he's in the wind early, like the outside center, earlier than the point or inside center. And so if he jumps far back, he's going to be launching away from the group. So he can just think straight down and the wind is going to blow him back, you know? So in the up-down direction, down. In the out direction, out just enough to get out of the inside center's way. And in the forward-back direction of the plane, again, I think just straight down, not really forward, not really back. Which foot is he leaving off of? If he has both feet on the door, I still think he's probably has very little weight on his left foot. And you may not be able to see that here, but his left foot is going to be off the plane and his right foot, he's just going to collapse, letting his right foot just be on the plane or not, but he's not pushing away very hard. So what does the launching foot do? He's just getting into position, but collapsing. What does the other foot do? It's opening up for presentation. And what do the hips do? They're opening for presentation. Same with the shoulders. And we talked about the head looking up at the point. Now let's talk about timing. So just do it with her and then I'm going to do the exercise. So here.
Take, ready, set.
So you'll see I'm highly anticipating as the tail. And if anything, I'm leading because I'm getting out of the inside center's way. So here is an exercise I like to do to demonstrate that. If Jeanette is the inside center, now this isn't exactly the move, right? But you can understand that if she does shake, 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 and she's ready, set, and she's going to push her hand forward, I need to get out of her way. So can you give just a little bit? Oh, I see. It needs to be this one. Okay, so.
Shake, ready, set.
Yeah. So again.
Shake, ready, set. Yeah.
Yep. Do you guys see that I'm getting out of her way? Right? I'm not really leaving super early, but yes, early enough so that she's never going to feel me, you know? Thank you again. That timing, again, is something we can practice. It's challenging, but it's one that if you do that exercise, I think it really helps to illustrate how to get ahead of the count without getting disconnected from the timing of the count, you know? What are we trying to do? We're trying to get out of the inside center's way. How do we do it? A little bit of, I see them and I'm gonna make sure that I'm on my way out the door even as they're starting to leave. Is there a reason I put my left hand on the door? So this is for the bow exit as outside center, right? And I think you can do either way great. You know, honestly, I don't know a lot of other outside centers that do what I do, where by putting my left hand on the door, but I do that for almost every exit I can. And the reason I do that is because the little bit of difference between having my hand here or having my hand here, you can see that I'm a little bit more presented, you know? Also, I'm taking a little bit, like I'm a little bit more outside, you know? And as outside center, one more thing that I can mention is that I like to be as far out into the wind as I can. So having my hand on the door makes me feel like I can be just that little bit more away, you know? You can do it great either way, but for sure that's what I do on every exit I can, bow, side body, or anything that's like that, where I would otherwise have my left hand on the forward on the bar. Also, I want to talk about another point for me as outside center, general idea, which is that when I'm standing out there in those moments before the count, I want to feel that I'm strong. And this is true for outside center, but this is really true for any of us. I think maybe especially for outside center, who often it's easy for them to get blown back, right? I want to feel this connection with my right foot on the door. And as much as possible, what I'm imagining is if I were to let go with my hands, that my foot is going to keep me in place. And of course it can't. Of course I'm not strong enough to let go and still stay in the plane. But I want to be as close to that as possible, you know? And if instead I feel like I'm holding on and I'm getting blown backwards and all my weight is behind my foot, and the moment I let go, I get pushed back off the plane, then I have no leverage to do all this stuff that I was talking about doing. So in those moments before the count, I encourage you to feel that. And I think if you can, you'll be much more successful for all the rest of the move. Awesome. Okay, that was the bow exit.